Judeo-Christian type mix.
Judeo-Christian, I hadn't heard that
That's
before.
What is
Well, and
thoughts
your
on
teacher,
that?
you might mention your teacher,
Which one?
Tupton children.
Yeah, I have
No,
mentioned her.
but I mean, her background was, I mean, she grew up Jewish, didn't she?
Yeah.
She-
There are people
she-
from all different traditions.
She grew up in a Jewish home.
You know, I think we put labels on things so that we can relate to them. So whether you call it Buddha or whether you call it, you know, like, we label things. And then because we've labeled things, they appear as if they exist that way from their own side. We do this all the time and don't recognize it. And when we do that, then we reify those things. I think that there is a benevolent energy that's available to all of us to help us. And what we choose to call it and how we choose to interact with it really is so personal, isn't it? So we just have to find the tradition that really resonates with us, because we all have a sickness. I'm sorry to break it to you, we're all mentally ill. We all have afflictions. That's our mental illness, and those are the things that cause us suffering. And so we all need different medicine, and so we need to find the medicine. I think all religions, maybe it's fair to say all religions are really there to help us to develop our good human qualities and also to help us deal with mental suffering. So if we can find a tradition that works for us, that's the most important thing, and the respect that for other traditions, because we can't all take penicillin. It's not going to work for all of us. You know, it wouldn't make any sense to have one religion for the whole world. It wouldn't work, because we all have different ailments and different needs, different propensities, different habits. That's my feeling anyway. Yeah. Sorry, Mom.
I just said thank you.
I have a couple random.
Okay.
Why are your robes red? And if everything is living, what do you eat? Yeah.
Good question. At the time of the Buddha, they dyed the robes with a saffron-colored mixture of roots and I don't know what else, so that all the monastics would be easily recognized. When Buddhism moved to different countries, basically I think they tried to pick a common color, or a color that wasn't anything to do with royalty or anything that would be strongly appreciated by the lay community. So, like for instance, in China, they tend to wear gray and brown because saffron was actually a color of royalty for them. In the Tibetan tradition, this must have been a color that was easily available, a common color. Personally, I'm glad they had a jewel color, you know. Although I would wear gray if I had to. But as Buddhism went to different countries, it seems like they took on whatever style suited their culture. Like, for instance, the Indian culture has always had one arm bare. That's a sign of respect, that I think it goes back to the days of showing that you don't have a weapon in your right hand, and so you come in peace. But also, it's very good training to have one arm out, because you're either always going to be too hot or too cold, and so you have to practice patience. There's no way around it. It's good training. As far as what we eat, now at the time of the Buddha, the monastics were alms mendicants, so they went with their begging bowls and they stood in front of houses, and people would come out and feed them whatever they had. So they couldn't say, sorry, I'm a vegetarian, I can't eat that, do you have something else? They took whatever was offered to them. So the Buddha never said, you can't eat meat. He said, you shouldn't kill. You shouldn't kill anything. You shouldn't ask someone to kill something for you. But if you're offered meat, then you can eat meat. But in this day and age, because we have so much availability of good, healthy food that's vegetarian, then following the advice of the Dalai Lama, he says, if you can be vegetarian, that's best. Then you're not, that's best. If you find that you need to eat meat, then eat less. Maybe you're vegetarian 5 days out of 7, or 3 days out of 7. But the fact is, even if a person is vegetarian or even vegan, although you're limiting the amount of suffering that comes from another living being, the fact is, even when rice is planted and the field is plowed up, there are countless living beings that are harmed. this is part of the detriment of living in samsara, is that we're, inevitably we're going to harm others. And so we just need to limit that as much as we can. So I eat my fair share of beans and tofu, and I occasionally eat meat. Not often, but occasionally. I had some turkey on Thanksgiving. Not on Thanksgiving, but the day after Thanksgiving. So, if a person can maintain their health by being a vegetarian, then why not? Although, nobody's going out, probably, maybe some of your hunters, I don't know, fishermen. Hopefully we're not going out and killing the animal ourselves. But even, you can make the case that even by just being a meat eater, we are encouraging the whole industry. And I encourage any of you who have even a slight interest in becoming vegetarian or eating less meat, you can Google so many interesting sites. If you just look under, animal cruelty, beef cruelty, dairy cruelty, chicken cruelty, you will find enough information to convince you that it's worthwhile to consider going vegetarian. These are living beings, that are, anyway, so the Buddha never said you can't eat meat, but I think if you really think it through, then if you really take on, the bottom line for Buddhists is non-harmfulness. That's something that we aspire to. It's difficult, it's not easy to do, but if we're really, to the degree that we're taking on this attitude of ahimsa, non-harmfulness, then you would naturally want to avoid those things that harm living beings.
And if we find a spider, we catch him and take him outside. when she's here.
Okay, so, yeah, I'm happy to keep going, but I'm also aware that, you all have worked all day, most of you, and if you need to leave, please do, and it's been a pleasure to be with you, but I'm also happy to
I'm
keep
just
going.
curious about Dalai Lama. How old is he, and who's going to take his place?
Oh, yes, he's 78, and now this is an interesting situation. You see, it's actually the Buddha also forbade people to discuss their realizations. To admit that you can control your own rebirth is, tantamount to saying you've achieved certain accomplishments, and people are not supposed to do that. But because of the unusual situation and time, you can bet that the Chinese government is just waiting for the Dalai Lama to die so they can appoint their own Dalai Lama, et cetera, et cetera. So he's actually come out with a statement saying that when he dies, he will not be born in a communist country. He will not take rebirth in a communist country. And that it's also possible for him to reincarnate while he's still living. Now that might sound fantastic to people like us, but if you think about a fully enlightened being can manifest as many bodies as they need to in any given moment. They're no longer flesh and, they're not limited like we are with a flesh and blood body. They may manifest a flesh and blood body so that we can relate to them, but they are not limited with just one body. They can manifest in whatever form they need to help living beings. As soon as we create the cause to be helped by them, they are manifesting in whatever form we need. Yeah. So I hope he lives a good long life. Actually, he said that he thinks he'll live to be about 107, I think he said, and then he'll check and see if it's beneficial to keep living. So how compassionate is that? And it'll be a sad day on the planet when he goes. Yeah, it'll be a very sad day. Okay. Yes, Kitty?
What's taking place during the inquiry? I've seen where there's an individual and then they're being questioned, and there'll be a group of people, and they get very animated.
Oh, the debating sessions.
I've always wondered what that was.
Well, that's one of the unique features of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, is that they have a very rigorous study program as a way of sharpening the mind. Because the fact is, to actually develop some of these high realizations, you have to have a very strong mind. So there's this basis of ethics, concentration, and wisdom. To develop wisdom, a person has to have very good concentration. To develop concentration, you have to have very good ethics. So they study 5 main topics in the monasteries. They might take one topic and study it for 3 or 5 years, and they become so proficient in all the subtle details of what they call different tenet systems and the subtle workings of the mind. And so they're debating with each other. They're doing this sort of thing. Yeah. It's a type of debate or argumentation, and it really makes you solid in your position so that no one can sway you. The thing is that we're trying to develop valid states of mind. Valid states of mind meaning no one could sway you from that because you've worked it out for yourself using logic and reasoning. And so when a person has developed that kind of logic and reasoning, then they have a very, very strong mind. Okay. Well, actually, it's getting pretty late. How about if we just finish there? So, if you wouldn't mind, let's just close by taking a moment to just again going inward. Just taking a moment to take a deep breath into the body. Again, just relaxing. And just take a moment to see if there was anything that was said or anything that you thought of, anything that was stimulated in you that might be beneficial, and really try to hang on to that. Maybe try to put it into practice this week. Something that you might find enhances your experience of your good heart, your positive state of mind. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate the invitation and hope to see you again. Have a happy holiday. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tenzin Tsepal. This has been wonderful. I have learned so much, and I think you all have too. So appreciate you being here.
Wonderful opportunity.
You gonna stay around?
I'll stay around a little bit. You want to, why don't you stay around?
Just make sure that, all right on. I may go now.
Why don't you-